guys, Marmalade checking in with you again for my third Q&A. And if you haven't watched before, it's every Tuesday. And this is my third one since coming back from the trail. And today we have 6 really good questions. I think you'll enjoy them, and they're a little bit different topics on each one. So let's go through them right away. Question number 1 is from Andrew Bruce, and he asked, would you buy all provisions along the way or send packages to each pickup point, or a combo? So resupplying was probably the thing I stressed the most about, and that's being honest. Oh my God, I spent a lot of time on it, and it is different for people living in the U.S. and people abroad for sure. I'm assuming Andrew is abroad, so for here, one of the best things I've already told a few people that you can do is go on YouTube and just type in a PCT resupply plan or resupply list. That's how I did it, and I took because I live in the U.S., I wanted to buy my own food as much as possible, but I found that there was about 12 to 14 places for me personally that needed to have a resupply box sent. My friend Robert, or Robot in the Wild, was kind enough to store my stuff that I bought to have sent to me. I went to the post office and got the flat rate boxes so he could, different sizes, so he could send them to me. I basically figured out, okay, I think it was 13 boxes initially, and I figured out how many days of food in each box I needed to be, and then eventually had like 63 days of food I needed to buy. So I went out and I bought 63 days worth of food. And I figured out how many breakfasts, dinners, and snacks I needed. One of the negatives to this when you buy it ahead of time is your tastes are definitely going to change, or you'll get sick of something. So you kind of just have to get what you think you're going to like and hope you like it. I know that I was tired of some of the stuff that I got towards the end in Washington, and I only did 903 miles. I didn't do the whole thing, so I can imagine later I would have been really tired to see the food, but it's not the end of the world. I looked at it as when I get a box once in a while, even if I'm not excited about what's in the box, it's just for another section, and you can buy some food after that. For people abroad, so there's multiple ways to do resupply. So I think first of all, do your due diligence and research online. What I did was, I was starting to say this, is I watched multiple videos and I started keeping notes of everywhere they resupplied. And I could see tendencies. I also used Yogi's Guide, which is a great book. A little pricey, but a great resource. But I see tendencies where most people resupply, and there's reasons why. It's either there's no store, or it could be a resort area where the food's astronomically expensive. And so those are the kind of places that I sent myself food. So that's what I did first. There's a bunch of ways to do it. People that maybe have a relative or they have a spouse that isn't back at home, some people actually spend, I don't know why they do this for the cost of shipping, but they'll send a box to every single town, like all the way through the whole trail, which I think is a big waste of shipping cost. But most people just ship to those, like I did, 12, 13, 14 spots they feel are where they need to send food to, and buy the rest in the towns you're in. The hybrid method is a great way to do it. So you can actually, whether you're US or abroad, you can do the hybrid method. And this is for sure what I would do, unless you know somebody in the US, I would do if you're coming from another country, is the hybrid method, which is buy in the towns as you get to town. And I've watched some through hikes of a couple that did this, and they were from the UK. And what they did is, when you get to a town that has food, and you already researched the towns that you want to ship yourself, just like if you lived in the US, you research what areas you want to send a box to yourself. When you're in the town, maybe a couple towns before those places, you buy the food you need for this section, and then you need a box, to maybe 100 miles down the trail, or 152 miles, you can buy a second and third set of food and send yourself your own resupply boxes ahead of time. And that's what people did. It's kind of like, if you're coming over, unless you know somebody, I wouldn't stress over it. And the main thing is you want to figure out how many days of food you need in that box to get you to the next section. Question number 2, Terry Savini asked, how did you navigate on trail? If you carried a compass, did you use it? How easy is it to get lost on trail? Like a lot of things, this is personal, but I would recommend getting gut hooks. Almost everybody on the trail has gut hooks. And I also had the free half mile app, and I almost stopped using it completely. I almost never looked at it. There's a few things on there that gut hooks doesn't have it. For the most part, I just use gut hooks. The main things I use gut hooks for, which is kind of what everybody does, which is upcoming potential water sources, campsites. I would tap on the other screen and see the elevation profile of what was coming up on my hike. I'll try to show you a couple screens right here of what I'm looking at when we look at the app, so you can check it out too. Now this app, I think you can buy it in 5 sections, and I don't know if it's gone up, I apologize, but it was $5 per section, so it would cost you $25. Sometimes they have a deal, and if you buy the whole trail, it was like a discounted price. Also, I don't know if they're still doing it, but they used to do it where, and I live in Southern California, but they would give you the first 100 miles of gut hooks free, and that's really just to let you use it and see how it works. So I feel gut hooks is the way to go. Almost everybody has it. The other part of your question was, is it easy to get lost in the trail? I would say, and by the way, that's like my one irrational fear that I have, the most fear, and it's not animals or bears or things like that killing me. It's purely like the fear of getting lost and this never finding your way back. You know, I do have my Garmin, so I'll be able to pull that, but that's just my one fear. So to answer your question, that is a good question. I would say 99.9% of the time you can't get lost. The trail's getting better and better marked for signage, and the trail's just, even when it's just worn in the ground, you can't miss it. The one thing where it gets sketchy is there's a lot of places you come through and there's multiple trails crossing. Usually the PCT, because it's been around so long, is really well worn in, but not always. And sometimes the cross trails are just as worn, so if there's not a sign, you can't tell. The app is so accurate. I mean, it's supposedly accurate within a few feet of you. So like there's been times when I've come up to I actually had it where I came up to a pass and there was 2 trails that went like this, and the sign that would tell me where to go was shattered in a million pieces and missing. So I simply opened my app up, and so it shows me, and I picked the trail I thought was correct, and I started walking down it, and that way you don't go 3 miles before you realize you're in the wrong place. And I noticed that my arrow shows me was going away from the red line on the app that shows the trail. So I realized, oh shoot, so within literally 30-40 feet I just turned around and went back, and it saved me time. There's times when you're just not paying attention and you'll make a wrong turn and you have to do bonus miles, but that's just human nature. That's not even the trail not being marked. Sometimes you just, you're talking or you're getting food or you're doing whatever and you're not paying attention and you just take the wrong trail. So question number 3 is from Brasco96, and they asked, I will be 58 when I start my thru hike next year and will undoubtedly be older than most of the other hikers. Was it hard for you to make friends or find other hikers for you to hike with for an extended period of time? So yeah, actually, that's a good question, because I thought about it. I was 56 when I started the trail. I just turned 57 since I've been off trail. So when I finish next year, I'll be 57. And I thought the same thing, but it's weird about your age. You could take 10 men or women, all 50, you're gonna be 58, you are 58, and line them up and they'd all be different. Like I feel like I'm a really young 57, and I've been an athlete my whole life, and I haven't really done drugs or smoked or anything like that, so I've taken care of myself and I have good genes. But I've been hiking for quite a few years to try to get in shape, and really just because I enjoy it. But I felt I was really young on that scale, so I think it depends on you, and it really depends on your personality when it comes to how easy it'll be for you to meet people. What's great and what's amazing about the trail is it doesn't matter if you're hiking next to young people, old people, you're accepted. If you're out there doing a thru hike, you're a badass, and that's all it is to it. Other hikers have respect for you. It comes down more to me, I guess it's an age thing, but more about personalities. I saw some groups out there, literally in their hiking group, their tramily, which is a trail family, was people in their 60s, some 20-year-olds, some 40-year-olds, like everything. And I'm telling you, from other countries, and you couldn't have picked a more oddball. If you put them together, you would never put them together, and they just hike together. Some come, some go, some get ahead, some get behind. But I wouldn't stress over that stuff. I will say that what you do want to do is mentally prepare to possibly hike the whole trail by yourself. If you can do that, then you're fine. I was prepared for that. I didn't want to. I'm a social person, but I hiked a lot of it, big chunks by myself. But you have to be ready for that, and like, let's say you don't get ready and prepare for that, and you hardly hike with anybody, you don't meet anybody. It's going to seem like a disappointment. But you're going on the trail for a certain reason, and that is for the adventure. And the people you meet, you'll meet tons of people, and you'll hike with people. And if anything, sometimes during the day you hike by yourself, even when you're with a group, but you end up at the same camp spots, and that's where everybody socializes. It's a little bit hard to socialize when you're hiking, and that you can small talk, but sometimes when you're going to big mountains, you don't want to talk. So I wouldn't worry about something you can't control. I think it's more about your personality and are you approachable and are you friendly and things like that. You know, if you can tell how I am, I had no problem making friends. And you were talking about like at my age. Well, if you watched, I hiked with Adam and Grant. They were 20 and 21 years old, which is my son's 22, so they're younger than my son. I'm older than both their dads, and we had a great time. We figured I probably hiked about 500 of the 702 miles in the desert together, and then when I flipped, I was by myself. I hiked a lot of Washington by myself, so I was by myself, but there wasn't as many southbounders as northbounders. So, and then I was supposed to hook up with my trail family, my new trail family, with Juicy and No No and some of them and Machine, right after Stehekin, but I hurt my ankle, and so they caught up to me, and we were supposed to hike together, but I couldn't keep up with them, so I eventually got off trail. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about that stuff. I think it's mostly about your personality and be willing to, you know, be friendly and outgoing and approachable. Question number 4 is from Sean Wilkinson, and he asked, did I have any blister problems hiking in wet socks in Washington? So it seems like probably a simple question, but it is actually a very important question. I would say people, their biggest mistakes and why they don't succeed is not hiking enough and getting in decent hiking shape, and not really testing and finding out your footwear. It's so important because think about it. Not only have you not hiked that far, done that to your body, but you're doing it all to mostly your feet, and you know, you're not, like I said, not trained to do that many miles, and then the weight of your pack and your body on your feet. I found I went through periods my shoes fit great, but my feet killed me, and they were sore all the time. I'm going to do some things to try to prevent it this next time when I get back out there. But to answer your question, get your shoes right. I wear Injinji toe liner socks that are thin cotton material that go over my toes and creates cloth between every toe so I don't get blisters. I've been doing it about 2 to 3 years, and I've never got one blister. Not that it can't happen, but I have not. And then I wear my Darn Tough socks over that. And I wear Ultra 3.5 hiking shoes, but I think I'm going to make a switch to something that if I do, I'll go through that with you for next year. But so in Washington, yes, my feet were wet a lot. I did not get a blister. So the toe liner socks are the key for me. I think a lot of people that wear them, they're a little bit of a pain to put on and take off and stuff, but that's the key. Some people don't wear them and they don't get them, but I think it's just, you know, how your feet are shaped and all that. So I did not have a problem with blisters. I haven't got one yet, knock on wood. But it can happen, and you know, that's why I carry some tenacious tape and just to put on my blisters if I get them. Question number 5 is from Solo over 50, and she asked me, is there a strategy to get the start date you want to go Nobo? All you guys that are planning on doing a thru hike, you know, you stress over, at least for me, I stressed over my resupply plan, like I said earlier, but also your start date. It's the most stressful thing. I've been hiking for, like I said, 3 years, and I think the year before I went this year, I probably did almost 900 miles on the PCT just in weekend section hikes. Like I hiked and I got my gear. I spent, you know, I got my life arranged and storage units, and then I sat there the day of going online and trying to get my permit, my thru hiking permit, and I'm like, shoot, reality hit. I'm like, if I don't get one of these, I'm not going. After all this, I can't go. Like, it seemed crazy. So it's super stressful, but a lot of people tell you, try not to worry about it because there's a ton of permits. And how it works is October, they moved it up a few days. This year it's October 29th. I think it's 10:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, so California time. And there's no advantage to getting in early. And how they did it last year worked like a charm. So whether you get in 1 minute, or I had a buddy who got in 1 minute early, and he got an earlier number than me. So how it works is you just get online. I did like a half hour early just to make sure I got in there, and you're in a queue, and you can see the numbers building. And I want to say when 10:30 hit, there's probably 4,000 people waiting in there, and later on it got to 6,000 or 7,000 people. So what happens is at 10:30, it just jumbles you to make it fair, and it mixes you up, and you get a number of order, and that's the order you get your permit. I was 1,522. I still remember it because I was like, oh no, I'm done. And now what's great about it is it shows a countdown. So it shows 1,522, 21, 20. It shows as people are getting their permits, it's getting closer to your number. And it tells you a rough guesstimate. Mine was like an hour and a half. So almost like torture. I'm sitting there for an hour and a half wondering if I'm going to get a permit, and I'm starting to do the math in my head because there's like a rough, not exactly, but like a 2-month window you want to start your through hike. I'm like, okay, they give out 50 permits per day. Um, so if there's, let's say, 30 days in a month, 50 times that, and I'm like 1,522. There's not even going to be any left. And to change that, to mix that up, is they don't give out all 50. On October 29th, they will give out 35 of the 50. So what happens is when you go in there, you'll see a calendar. You pick the date you want, and it'll show the original 35, and then it might be like 9. That means that all but 9 are taken. That means that date's open. So it'll be, and once it goes to 0, that means that they're all gone for that day. And the second set of permits, with the 15 remaining each day, are open on January 14th, 2020. What you should try not to worry about is that there's a ton of permits. People take them and give them back, and they'll go back in there hopefully and then give it back up. And then so what you do is, if you were not to get the date that you wanted, you can go back in even later on and see if something opened up, and then apply for it. Some people don't know when they're going to get off, especially if they're coming from another country, and so they need the extra time till January 15th. So I called the PCTA because I was wondering what I should do, because I've already done 903 miles and I have about 1,750. And I didn't know if I needed a whole through hiking permit or whatever, and they suggested that what I do is they have some set aside that are for people that are trying to finish, or not even, to say you're going to go this year and you're starting your first time, but you're not going to do a whole through hike. Sorry, I'm in a public park and there's people walking by and dogs fighting, and there's a garbage truck. So that's the joys of doing these videos. But anyway, so I was told that I needed to wait. They have a certain amount of permits set aside for people not doing the whole through hike, which is what I got the first time. And then what I'll do is on January 14th, go in there just like you guys are doing early. Tell them that I want, if it's over 500 miles, you have to get a permit. And I happen to be going through the Sierras, which is, you have to have a permit too. So I will pick, like, I haven't decided if I'm going northbound or southbound yet. I'm going to wait until January and see how the weather is, so whether we have a big winter up there or not, or things like that weather-wise. But what I'll do is pick, I have one continuous section from basically Kennedy Meadows South up to Stevens Pass, where I got off trail. So that's like I said, a 1,750 mile stretch. So I will pick which way I want to go, where I'm starting, where I'm ending, and in there is the JMT and that permit for that. And they're allowed so many, the PCTA is allowed so many there's a year, and once that's part of the permits, and once those permits are gone, it's also allowing that many through hikers to go through that area, because they also give out permits for people that just go out. They're not through hikers, they're just going, they want to go to, the Sierras and just do the JMT. So I have to wait. It's kind of torturous, but I have to wait till January 14th and then apply for mine. So I'm in the same boat. But what I'm getting at is, I wouldn't stress over it. It's stressful, but I wouldn't worry about it. But basically, the day of, you get in there ahead of time, doesn't matter how early. Like I said, I was in there a half hour earlier and I got 1,522. My buddy gets in there 1 minute before and he gets number 400. So there's no rhyme or reason. Just get in and make sure your Wi-Fi is good and you got a cup of coffee and you can sit there for a while. And so that's it. And I think that's the best way to answer that question. Okay, so the sixth and final question is from Doug Laher, and he asked, at your stage of life, taking the plunge for the PCT and quitting your job had to have been difficult. What was it that finally pushed you in that direction? I'd love to do a through hike, but don't know if I have the courage to walk away from my day-to-day life. It's a great question. That's something I could talk a lot about, but I'll try to keep this semi-brief, at least for me. But basically, when I started this 3 or 4 years ago, I'd been in corporate sales too for almost 20 years. And although I was making 6 figures and I made money and was climbing the ladder, I finally realized that I was dissatisfied with what I was doing. In other words, yeah, I had money, but I worked 1,000,000 hours, totally stressed. And my main thing is I had no job security. With corporate sales, you're only as good as your last quarter or whatever. And I had been doing well, but things started to slow down, and I wasn't fulfilled. And it's weird how at the same time I'm finding backpacking and disconnecting, as I call it, getting into nature. And my life and my perspective changed, and this may help you guys that are in the same position. It doesn't matter your age, but especially when you get older and you've been in a career, and like I've raised a son, and it's like now I can start to think about me a little bit. And I just realized that for the rest of my life, within reason, I want to have experiences and not stuff. Money buys you stuff. You need money to live, you need a job. But I decided to be happier and get out and do things. So yeah, because I wasn't making very much money, I had a regular job, and then I had a secondary job that I could work whenever I want on the side. I worked 2 jobs basically full time because I didn't make that much money compared to my old job, but it's what I had to do. I felt like working, I think I worked 2 jobs full time for about 14 months to go on the trip, to save enough that I felt, and you know, pay for my gear and things that I was buying. But to me it was worth hopefully having 6 months on trail and not doing anything. And so it depends on your trade-off. I know it's hard to just disconnect from your life and just drop everything. It's hard, but it's weird. It's freeing in a way. And you know, we're so structured in how our lives are, and that we don't think that there's any other way. If you watch any of the people that do these videos, you know, like some of my predecessors, like, you know, Darwin or Dixie, you can make it happen. You just have to want it, and you have to make some life changes, but it depends on where your priorities are. You know, if you have younger kids, or you're a younger couple and you're married and you're growing a family and you're starting to, you bought a house and things like that, then you have things that not only tie you down, but they're responsibilities, and so you can't just jump and go. Some people stop their lives to the point of selling everything they own in their houses and going. I don't know if that's smart, but they really want to go because you're dealing with the aftermath when you get back. But I kind of organized my life so that I could just go, and then so I think it just depends on your priorities. Okay guys, that does it for our number 3 Q&A. Love the questions. Please have the questions coming, please. Love the questions. Remember, it's every Tuesday. Look for the video. Also, if you haven't yet, subscribe. You can click that little bell in the upper right corner, and that'll notify you each time I post a video. I just went on a 3-day adventure up to Big Bear. I'm about to post that video. I got some gear videos coming out. I'm getting ready to go on an overnight backpacking trip up above Idlewild. I may be going to the Sierra, so stay tuned and check out the channel. Click that little bell. That'll notify you when I post something. And please go to my Patreon account. I'm really starting to grow that now. It's going to help me get out there and do more adventures. And like I said, actually eventually be in a van or do something where I can get out there and create more and share more and educate and motivate and just teach you guys more about this kind of life, in case it's something you're interested in doing too. So go to Patreon. It is just, you can look for Mike Marmalade Lawrence. I think you can do Mike Lawrence too, and on Patreon, and it's a way you can donate from $1 up to as much as you want per month, and you'll get extra bonus stuff there that you wouldn't get, or even videos you wouldn't get here. So please go check it out, and again, leave questions. Love to answer anything you want to know, and until next time, we'll see you down the trail.